Hello and welcome back to the Social Jar podcast. Happy Monday. It's the start of a brand new week, which means it's time for another episode of the Social Jar. I am your host, Dan Wiseman, and as always, I'm joined by my good friend, Andreas Georgiou, to take another dive into the wild and wacky world of social media. If you're new to the show, subscribe wherever you're listening, and if you like it, by the time you get to the end, why not drop us a tweet? We always love to engage with our listeners here on the show. How you doing, mate?
No, I'm doing great, mate. I'm doing great. I'm really glad that we're in the rhythm of the podcast 100%. Now. You know, last year was a bit hit and miss, but we're consecutively hitting the timelines every 2 weeks, I believe. So it's fantastic, and some great feedback from our real strong listener base. You know, really. So we're always so grateful to read anything really that anyone has to say about the show, but it's been, you know, you guys have shown so much love and we really appreciate it, and it keeps the fuel going for the Social Jar podcast.
100%. It's why we do it, mate. It's why we do it. And you've set me up nicely. You've thrown up the alley-oop and I'm coming in with the slam dunk.
Oh yeah.
Because one of our best pieces of feedback was a few weeks ago, actually now. About a month ago, probably.
Yeah.
We probably should have got around to it sooner.
Definitely.
But the sheer amount of fan mail gets on top of you sometimes. And it's from one of our most dedicated, if not the
single most dedicated fan in the history of the Social Jar podcast.
We've got to give this man his flowers. Barry Taylor always watches the show, a huge fan. And he went to, you know, some people, they watch the show. They reply to the, you know, they tweet us, or sometimes they even drop us a personal message, say, hi, great episode this week, really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, thank you very much. Oh, yeah. But sometimes, every once in a blue moon, someone goes above and beyond.
Always.
And then there's above and beyond, and then there's beyond the above and beyond, which is where this reply, like, it's to our Mythbusters episode. Do you remember that one where we went through and debunked?
I remember that chestnut. Yeah.
And Barry Taylor wrote a song. It was a play on the popular Ghostbusters theme, and we thought we'd give it its flowers on the show and we'd give it a rendition.
Yep.
Are you ready?
I'm ready. Yeah, I've got it on my phone right here. Here's one I prepared earlier. But yes, I've got it up.
Ready? If there's something strange
on your Instagram,
who are you gonna call?
Mythbusters.
If there's something weird
and a mag just trained,
who you gonna call?
Mythbusters.
I ain't afraid of no post.
I ain't afraid of no post. I ain't afraid of no post. Yeah, everybody here. I'm gonna stop. But I think we did a great job there.
So thank you for watching this week's episode guide. If you enjoyed the Social Jar,
that is it for this week. 2 minutes in the bag.
We've got to go downhill now. The excitement's there.
I feel the show should probably be cancelled.
It's not going to get better than that.
But big shout out to Barry for
100%, man. That was great fun. That was great. And as I said, the only thing we can apologise for is that it took us this long. But obviously that's rehearsed. That's totally not just off the cuff.
Totally not off the cuff, like anything on this show.
We've been planning that for weeks. Back to normal.
Should probably do the episode now.
So it's nice that we've introed that. And this week we're going to be diving into social media algorithms. This is going to be a hefty one. Because what are they? How do you sort of beat them? If you're a marketer like us, how do you use them for their advantage? There's so much that we can talk about, mate.
There really is, because algorithms are probably the single most quoted word in history of social media marketing, because you could just walk into any room, something good or bad happens, you'll turn to someone and go, algorithms.
It's just the algorithm.
You know, it's the buzzword of all buzzwords in our industry, and a lot of people say it without understanding what an algorithm is, let alone algorithms.
Yeah.
And I did the TH. Those who watched the last episode, I just did it. But, you know, it's a very contentious point in social media.
Yeah, 100%. And it feels like quite a nice follow-on from the last episode, you know, where we were talking about reports, if you haven't watched it. But people are just getting bored of social media. So algorithms feels like a nice follow-on from that, because there's something that can keep you interested or indeed disinterested on social media. So before we get into it, it's very interesting to preface, because we are talking about algorithms, which is a topic which nobody really understands. It's incredible. I'm about to sit here and do a podcast on something which, to be honest with you, nobody's ever really got. There's only a few people in the world that truly understands how the algorithms for each platforms work, and I'm not one of them.
No.
This is going to be great fun.
No, definitely not. I feel we're in the best place possible.
Yeah, 100%. You're in good hands, guys. Don't worry about it. So I think the good place to get the ball rolling is a proper kitchen table definition of what an algorithm is. And in the simplest possible terms, a social media algorithm is a way of sorting a user's posts based on what the platform thinks is the most relevant. Would you agree? So it's not in a non-chronological order, I should say, in which the newest posts appeared at the top. That's how it worked for a long time. But then algorithms came in, and rather than what's most recent, it sort of gives you, when you go on, something that they think you're most wanting to see. Agreed?
Absolutely. And it's all social media platforms are built with code, because that's how software is made.
This is a proper dummies guide, isn't it?
This is a proper dummies guide, but that's how software is made. So when people talk about algorithms, they're talking about the code which makes social media platforms act the way in which they do. Like you said, Dan, it used to just be, hey, show the most recent post first. And now, even though that is actually still part of the algorithms,
yep,
that is actually a line of code, because you may go on there, you might not see something that was the last thing that someone posted, but everything that you see on your main feed is generally usually in the last 24 hours somebody has interacted with that. Yep. So it's still part of it, but there are a lot more different elements to it now, aren't there?
Yes, a lot. And so I think we're going to try and keep this episode general. You know, this episode could be so long if you went into specifics, but I think we're just going to try and show you a few different ways in which you can get around algorithms and use them to your advantage if you're in the business of social media. So
let's do it.
They take information from not just content that you engage with, but how you engage with it. And TikTok is a platform that is entirely built on an algorithm. It's probably no more prominent in any other platform than it is on TikTok. But it's been going around for a long time. I suppose the best way to sort of take note of how the TikTok algorithm is starting to figure in your heart is the first video, which is the most important when you go on TikTok, because it basically determines whether you're going to go on there for 2 hours or 20 seconds. If you go on there and the first video is an absolute dud and you're like, oh, I'm not going to bother with this today. Whereas if the first video is something that you're super interested in, it's going to keep you hooked. So it's very interesting. I think when you go on TikTok next, take a note of what your first video is. In fact, let us know. That would be quite fun.
Let us know if it's true or rubbish.
Because as I said, we mentioned Cal the Dragon. Cal the Dragon is someone that comes up a lot. We spoke about him on the last podcast. Someone that's always at the top of my feed. I don't know what that says about me. Is that bad? That might be bad.
What about Astrid? Do you get Astrid?
No, I'm not even prepared to go into this
Cal the Dragon, man. Astrid Simon thing.
Yeah.
Oh man,
kicking off, man. That's a
future
episode.
Don't forget Ed's in there too.
Can't forget him. God. Ed's Tiki Toki.
Yeah.
Don't forget him.
It's
that's a whole episode, man.
That's
that really
literally
is. So let us know, because this is a good way to figure it out. And I think when you go on YouTube, it's exactly the same. First thing you get hit with are the suggested videos for you, and if you click on those, then you start to feed the algorithm, and it builds up quite a big profile of you, and it gives you content again when you go on YouTube the next time that's even further tailored to you. So, mate, it all sounds pretty innocent. Sounds pretty good to me. You go on there, it's recommended content for you. What's not to like?
What is not to like? Because obviously the computer is telling me what I should watch because it thinks it knows what I can watch and what I enjoy watching. And you know what? They're probably correct. These are very, very advanced pieces of code or algorithms that literally monitor absolutely everything that we do on social media. The length of time we watch a video for, the number of times we repeat a certain video, the number of times we scroll, the pattern in which we scroll. Like you said, what's that first video? If it's something like, that you really enjoy, you engage with the most, is that going to actually dictate how long you spend on the app? These are all things that in the background, the algorithms are taking that data to feed you exactly what they think they're not sentient, but what the creators of the algorithm think will keep you on the platform for as long as possible.
Yeah, I think So, as I said, it's important to preface before we get that social media could not exist without algorithms because of the sheer amount of content that is posted online nowadays. I was actually on Sprout Social earlier when I was doing a little bit of reading into this podcast, and they have a really interesting thing where it's ticking over constantly the amount of, on all the different platforms, how many posts have been posted that day. And it's just fascinating. The tweets are just going, like the number never stops. Instagram's a little bit slower. Twitter, it's just crazy. And you sort of go, well, we need algorithms because otherwise, how would you sort through all of that? How would you provide with someone's feed? Like, how would it work? You need algorithms to function and ultimately fuel modern social media. But they are sometimes viewed negatively for a few reasons. The first amount, as you've sort of touched on very rightly, mate, is the amount of data collection that goes into sort of constructing an accurate recommendation of what a certain user likes and doesn't like to see. The second is, there's sort of been a few conspiracy theories over the years that believe algorithms, some people say ultimately exist. I wouldn't go that far. I might agree with partially exist because it sort of not forces but encourages brands and really anyone to put paid ad spend behind their posts to get them higher up the feed, because sometimes it can be difficult to get them up there naturally. So you're sort of inclined to put some money behind it to bump it up there and sort of beat the algorithm and get your content seen. So there's that part of it. And then the third element is that they're very complex. And brands are usually quite shady about them. The major platforms, the companies that sort of operate these social media, they never really give us a true sense of what's going on in the algorithm, how it works, and exactly what their platform. Sometimes they give us indications and they go, which we'll come on to later, and say, this is what will work on this platform, this is what you guys should be trying to do. But they're often quite shady about it. And for those sort of three reasons primarily, algorithms have come to become, I don't want to say a dirty word in social media, but something that people are slightly mistrusting of.
Yeah.
Mistrusting, is that a word?
Mistrust is definitely a word.
Yeah, we'll go with it.
Yeah. That's the word of the week. We'll go with mistrust. Mistrust, word of the week. But yeah, no, absolutely. If you think about it, because that word, like we said at the beginning of the show, that word is bandied around so often with people not truly understanding what it actually means. It's almost has this negative connotations. Like, when people's content doesn't perform well, like you just mentioned there, Dan, about paid ads. So someone's content doesn't perform well. It's the algorithm's fault. The algorithm didn't want people to see it. Well, the algorithms are, yes, they are a bit sketchy or shady, you could say, Dan, because it is leveraged in a way which does try and promote brands or users to use paid advertisement to increase is no such thing, but to get it out to more people. Because the funny thing is that Facebook or Twitter or Instagram could do that in a heartbeat. It's not like there's a special button in the background where only if somebody presses that button can everybody see the post. It's just how the algorithms are built. Only a certain amount of people can see this, unless it, like we've talked about in previous episodes, it ticks a few boxes. Lots of engagement going on, lots of shares, lots of comments, etc., etc. These kind of things are points of data the algorithms are looking for to spread this content out further and further. And that's how pretty much all of the social media channels are built now. It's basically a game. It's a game.
100%. And, we've seen algorithms, as I said, like over the year become news where companies have got third parties involved and there's been sort of data passed between the two, which is sort of sometimes a bit of a no-go in the industry. And I suppose people look for ways to be clever and get around the algorithm. I was reading online of ways people want to beat it because there's some sort of sense of pride that you've beaten the machine. People were suggesting, not logging in when you use like YouTube, for example. Like you don't log into an account and you just go on there and you search for what you want to see, you watch it, engage with it. There's no algorithm there because it's got nothing to recommend to you because you don't have an account. It can't provide, so it doesn't really register it that way. I think other people have been saying, like, when you're on TikTok, only use the following tab. So obviously you've got the For You page and the following tab, and then just follow whoever you want and go through that because there's not much data it can register based on if you do that. I've never actually done that. I think all the time I've had TikTok, I've never watched it on the following tab.
Maybe one or two times as a joke.
Yeah, that's a joke. But that's a really good way to showcase the power of the TikTok algorithm because we were talking about, guys like Cal the Dragon. I don't follow Cal the Dragon. but I see every single one of his videos.
Yeah.
Which speaks a lot to the power. There's loads of guys that I think on TikTok, I literally follow about 15 people, but there are so many people that I stay engaged with, which keep coming up on my TikTok feed based on how long I've spent watching them.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the best way to showcase exactly what an algorithm, that's going to be a tongue twister by the end of the episode, man. Exactly how powerful it is and how well it can be used. As I said, TikTok, there's probably no better showcase of exactly how powerful they can be than on that platform.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think, how do we get the other side of that is not how to beat them, but how to get the most out of them. And we're marketers on this podcast. This is what we're in the business of doing. So I think we're gonna, instead of going into each platform and going, okay, this is what you need to do on Facebook, this is what you need to do on Instagram, this is what you need to do on Twitter, this is what you need to do on TikTok. We're just going to provide some general rules of thumb. I've got 5 here in front of me that are going to help you to sort of bump your content a little bit higher up the algorithm based on typically what they're looking for across the platforms. And the first one is a great tie, actually, because it sort of links to a previous episode of the Social Jar podcast, where we looked at the Facebook files. And this comes in because the algorithm typically likes posts that have encouraged engagement in the comments and the replies. Generally speaking, getting the conversation going and starting and facilitating genuine transactions in those comment sections is a great way to rank higher in a platform's algorithm. And this got Facebook into a little bit of trouble because they were bumping posts higher up the algorithm that, we're talking about some pretty harmful stuff, whether they were like spreading fake news or anything like that. This was seen a lot in the election where a lot of harmful discussions were going on in comment sections, but Facebook were going, yeah, but this is great for the algorithm, so we'll bump it up when probably they should have been banning half of the comments.
Dan, I hate to cut you off, mate. But this is an educational podcast. And I think if I educate you, we can educate the audience here.
Go on.
The algorithm isn't the end point. The algorithm is what creates the end point. So like, this will boost the algorithms, for example. No, the algorithms are boosting the content,
yes.
Or in some cases restricting the content. So it's the other way around, just so we're clear.
See, this is what I mean. I'm learning all the time.
And it's algorithms as in plural, because
that's even harder to make. I messed up algorithm a few minutes ago. You're going to have an S on the end. That's way harder.
Exactly, mate. Nothing is built on one algorithm. Like I say, it's code, and code has various rules. So it's algorithms. But carry on, because it was a good point before that.
It was. And so that when you're getting those conversations going, that's a good way to sort of get the most out of it. And it's something that across platforms, when you see a lot of that, it's often more like likes is something that's chased, but comments, they can be just as important too.
Yeah, comment. And we keep going back to the Facebook files episode that we did, but there's a lot of juicy information that came out in that report about how Facebook's algorithms do affect what we see as the end user, and comments and doing posts that are more controversial to elicit more comments, in the comment section was one of the biggest proponents in terms of a content being seen. So yes, definitely encouraging comments, replies and engagement, that is a big one for the various algorithms to show us more of that content.
Yeah, I think the sort of, before we go any deeper, I think it's important, would you say that the end goal of all of this process is to get people to spend longer time on each platform?
Yeah.
So when you're sort of seeing these conversations, which a lot of people are getting involved in, thus meaning you're likely to get involved in them yourself, these are all things which platforms are hoping if you see first, you're more likely to get engaged with and then spend longer on that platform. And so another way to do that in a very effective manner is something that we're seeing told to all of us all of the time is video. Post video content, because you spend longer engaging with a video than you do any other form of content. If a video is 1 or 2 minutes long and you watch the whole thing, there's no way you're going to stare at an image for 1 or 2 minutes. There's no or whether it's just text or a poll or whatever it might be, all the different forms of content. Video is the best way for people to spend longer on a platform, because as I said, you will engage with it for a lot longer than you will any other type of media.
Yeah. You can watch something longer than you can read it, right?
Exactly. A very good way to put it.
It's a big reason.
So, Facebook, Instagram and Twitter have all been pretty vocal about just how important video is to their respective platforms. And platforms love sharing video content, because it means not only are you spending more time on that platform producing and uploading the video content? The other people that are then watching it are going to do the same as well. So it's a win-win for them, really. So that's one way. The second way that you can sort of increase your chances of succeeding, or I don't want to say beating the algorithm, because that's not what this is, working alongside it, right? I should preface.
It's teamwork, it's cooperation.
Yes. So you've got tagging other accounts and hopping on popular hashtags. So one of the most used posts that we see all the time on social media is tag a friend.
Yeah.
Tag a friend, tag a friend, tag a friend in the comments. You see this a lot in sport and in football. It's like an easy win for these big sporting accounts. It's just showing someone missing an open goal and be like, tag a friend who would miss this.
For an example of this is I follow John Taffer, who heads up Bar Rescue, which is it's an American show where he goes and helps struggling bars kind of not go out of business. And I follow him, and I can't even remember why because I've never watched the show, but I follow him and I constantly see him on my Facebook page, not because John Taffer is posting content, it's because he's getting tagged in things that say, tag a celebrity that you'd really love to spend an evening with, and someone tags John Taffer, and then John Taffer replies and says, thanks for that. And I'm seeing this content on my feed. And that's just another kind of explanation of like how Facebook is utilizing these algorithms to get content out to people who, like, how would I ever see that? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it feels like an easy win. And that's why giveaways work the way that they do. And that's why it's no longer just, like this to be entered into our giveaway. It's like, tag 2 friends in the comments, share it, and because that's the way of making sure that as many people see this giveaway as possible, which is ultimately the end goal for whoever is running it. And hashtags work in a similar way, right? Because when you get those hashtags, are ultimately conversations, aren't they? All culminating or surrounding one topic. And so I think those two sort of go hand in hand in that sense, don't they? And I think whilst on giveaways, it's why often there's a hashtag to go alongside it. Yeah. And I think when you're getting that mass engagement going, the two always work in tandem, don't they?
Definitely, yeah.
So as I said, with that in mind, you're aiming to get people to spend, I'm learning all the time. You're aiming to get people to spend as long as they can on a particular platform, which is why I learned today, platforms don't like you using links. And when you think about it, it makes so much sense because links take you away from the platform. Mm-hmm. So accounts look very sort of harshly down on accounts that just tweet links. If you're posting a lot of links, as we do for some clients, if you're sharing news on a website or anything like that, you have to do it in very clever ways. Try and accompany media with it or a lot of copy or anything like that, because there's a lot of evidence to show that these big platforms don't like accounts that just tweet links constantly. Not only is it a bit spammy, but sometimes they can see, okay, this might be potential, and flag it, and suddenly that account won't feature as much on people's feeds.
It's like once you go away from a platform, there's no guarantee you'll come back, which is why it can be detrimental.
Yeah, so you have to be, if you are going to use links, try and include them in media posts, because as I said, they don't like accounts that post links constantly because it's taking people away from their platforms. You have to be a bit clever and creative when directing people away from the platforms that they are posting on. And then the last one is sort of, it seems a bit of a gimme really, seems a bit obvious, but it's posting frequently and with varied content. So traditionally, platforms will reward those that post frequently and get the most out of the different media types that a platform offers. Those that come and go won't get that preferential treatment. So, we were talking a little while ago, to link back to the Mythbusters episode, about upload times and how many times you should post a day and everything like that. I suppose there's a little bit of that in this, isn't there?
Yeah, definitely. It's about having a balanced social media channel where look, social media platforms will treat their content creators preferably if they know that their content is going to bring people in and it's going to keep them on the platform for a longer time. So that's why, like you were saying, you see a lot of Cowley Dragon videos, because Cowley Dragon, people love him and they watch all this stuff and they'll keep scrolling on TikTok. It's all about the data they're getting from us being on their platforms. So when somebody posts frequently, they're posting multiple times a day, or even on other platforms where they're posting, maybe a few pictures and a video and then a text, and the algorithms are detecting that this is keeping people engaged and it's getting good engagement, and they're allowed to push that post up and up and up. they're going to put you at the forefront, you
Yep.
know? So definitely, it's about work, like you said, working alongside the algorithms.
100%, 100%. I think with them being as developed as they are, and with them being so intrinsically linked to success on a platform, why do you think? Because we've seen a few major platforms revert to the good old days. I say good old days, but I don't know which is better or worse, but the days of the non-chronological feeds. We've started to see them creep back in. Twitter have offered them for quite a while. You can, at the top, you can change it back to a non-chronological feed. And Instagram are reported to be slowly trying to work on reintegrating that feature into their platform. So it's interesting to see that despite how crucial they are to getting people to spend longer on their platforms, they are looking to divert back to the old ways. And I think perhaps that's something that in reversing that trend could actually work in their benefit.
Definitely. If you, sorry to cut you down, but like, it's all a game.
Yeah.
Everything about social media, everything about keeping people on the platform, it's about points and ticking boxes and ultimately, like, we have no control of that as the content creators or the end users. And yes, we have an influence on that, but it's down to them. Mm-hmm. What content do TikTok want on their platform? What content does TikTok want you to see? What does Facebook want you to see? Ultimately, it's down to them. And that's why we had such a big problem during the fake news outrages of, Donald Trump's presidency, because people were seeing this content and they were like, wait, why am I don't want to see this, but kept triggering the algorithms, and therefore it was coming at the forefront, and that's why they had to clamp down on fake news. So it's definitely this weird two-way street, but don't get it wrong. They have the power, we don't.
100%. And that's why it is sort of the quest for all social media marketers to get on top of this, to truly understand it and work how they can optimize it with the work that they do and get the most out of the platforms that they're using. And because of how ever-changing they are, and because of how deeply complex, perhaps we never will. That's the crazy thing about it, is that this whole life we're trying to chase the explanation and finally get on top of it. But maybe that's as you said, mate, it's a game.
It's chicken and the egg.
We love playing. It's a game we love playing. And I think it's in terms of keeping people on platforms, we'd love to keep you listening here on the Social Jar. It's been another good episode, mate. I said, episode 15, what a milestone that is.
What a milestone.
Beautiful. We're looking forward to some big episodes. As I said, we're really in the spring of things now, and things are coming thick and fast. There's a lot of news to discuss here on social media, and we've got a lot coming for you here on the Social Jar podcast. And as always, we'd like to thank you very much for listening. It's been a blast. Thank you very much for your support. As I said, we always love people tweeting in and letting us know how much they've enjoyed the episodes.
Send us a song. We love songs.
Yes. If you'd like to the start, I can't believe that happened.
Yeah.
If you fancy writing a song, we can't guarantee that we'll start every episode by performing a song. Maybe we will. Maybe we won't.
We will. Maybe we won't.
That's the beauty of it. Thank you very much for listening, guys, and we'll see you next time.